Hiya, it's Amanda here from Lolli Lulu Crafts, and today we are going to be making a Christmas card using our Cricut Explore, but using the design space on our iPad. Now, just to say that I won't necessarily be going to a lot of detail about how you use the design space at this point. It is my intention to do a full-on course on the Cricut Explore, both with the design space on the iPad and also on the computer. So at this point I'm really focusing more on the card. So let's get crafting. So what we have here is the screen of the iPad, and in order to help you see what I'm doing, when I'm pressing buttons or doing slidings, etc., you'll see little aqua coloured dots or movements coming up just to help you see where exactly I'm pressing. So starting off the design process, we're clicking on the shapes button and bringing up a square. I then changed the square to white and brought up my shapes again and put in a circle, which I then popped into the center of my square and then went around both and aligned it to center by using the align button, so we know it's absolutely perfectly centered. I then grabbed both again and went into my actions button and clicked slice. By clicking slice, you then basically cut one thing out of the other, creating an aperture card. I then went into my text tool and grabbed a text and then typed the word joy. I've used a text called headline text, and now I'm just going to resize it and position the letters so they go across into the aperture, and in order to do that obviously they need to touch each other and also the outside edge, which is the square part of our card. And then once I'm happy with the position of those letters, I'm going to open up the sync command, and what you can do is drag any element into another element and it changes that into the same color, so thereby you can make sure that everything matches itself, which is really helpful. And then grabbing hold of all three layers, which are the letters, and I'm going into my actions section and I'm grouping those together, and then I'm going to duplicate that because I do want an extra set of those letters. So I'm just popping those to one side, and then I'm grabbing the whole thing and I'm clicking on weld. It's now welded our letters into our square to create the letters over our aperture. Next, I've created a layer to sit behind, and I'm just aligning that centrally just to ensure that I'm happy with the amount of the depth of the matten layer. And again here I'm just changing the color so that it helps when you're going to the mat to see the color that is roughly the color that you're going to be cutting in, because it then helps you know what color to put on the mat next when it asks for it. So now we're going into the mat, into cut. I had to purchase some items, so I just clicked on the purchase, and very simple because I've got the Touch ID on my iPad, so I just did the purchase and now it's ready to go ahead and cut. And you can see I've got it all ready to go, and now it's cutting. So that's the first cuts complete, but I did then decide to do an additional element. Decided to create a back part of my card. So I've got my original square, which was my card base, and then I took a duplicate of that and I moved it up about an inch just as a guide. I got a line from my shapes and then I twisted that at a 90 degrees angle. I've grouped the two together and then aligned it centrally. and then use the attach tool to attach the line to that specific piece of card and made it into a score line, not a cut line. And again, as I said earlier, I will be going into detail later on, step by step, on how to use the design space. So if you're not familiar about what I mean by attach, etc., then don't worry, we will be getting to that in later videos. Okay, so there's the iPad telling us the cut is complete, and here's the proof. Here are all the elements that we have cut out. So here we have the card base that I was telling you about, so you can just see that score line there. Now when you've got one of these score lines, you need to be careful. You need to just gently bend it into that score line. Don't go sort of straight in with your score tool, because you'll find it creases in the wrong place. Just allow the card to gently find that score line and then go in with your score tool to sharpen it up. So that was the front of our card, but this square piece here is the back of our card and the inside back of our card. And before I put the two pieces together, what I wanted to do was do my inside sentiment. So I'm going to emboss that, so I'm just putting some powder over it first to ensure that the embossing powder doesn't stick to any random fingerprints. I'm then using this Pink by Design set of stamps and this really cute Wishing You Sparkle, Wishing You Cheer sentiment. I'm just stamping that with my Versamark on the inside, or what will be the inside of the card. You don't want to press massively hard with this because they're letters, and if you're not careful you'll squish them and it will make them kind of fat. And then I'm sprinkling it with my white Cosmic Shimmer embossing powder and then just going over it with my heat tool to melt it, and there you can see the finished sentiment. So now we're going to put the card together, so I'm just using some tape on that back flap piece, or that we then peel that off. Now what you want to do is when you put that piece, the square piece on, you want to match it at the bottom, because if it doesn't match at the top it doesn't really matter, you're not going to see it, and then you just flap that flap down over it just to complete the card. So now the card base is put together, we're going to start putting our layers on. So we've got this gorgeous Anna Griffin paper that we cut on our Cricut, and I'm just sticking that down with my tape pen here. And what I'm going to be doing is obviously putting my aperture piece over the top, but and you can then see that lovely paper popping through. However, what I want to do first is create like a shaker pocket to go behind. So I'm using my fuse tool again, and because you've seen that a few times now, I didn't really show you it in detail here, but I just created the three sides fused and then checked that it fitted okay and cut the excess off. So happy with that. And then I'm going to take these gorgeous little beads, some lovely red beads, and pop those inside my pocket, just as something different to put in instead of sequins. And I think it was a really nice Christmassy colour there. And then I'm going to, once I'm happy with the amount, I will then just seal the top of the pocket with my fuse tool, creating this gorgeous finished pocket. Isn't that pretty? So then I'm just taking my card front, I'm just checking here exactly where the aperture falls so that I don't put the adhesive where it will show, and then I'm just going to put some tape around all of the sides here so that I can adhere my pocket down. It doesn't need to be particularly strong adhesive, it's a light pocket and it's obviously going to be sealed in with the aperture as well, so it's just a case of really to hold it in position. And I'm going to then attach my aperture front, but I'm not going to put it sort of dimensional, I'm going to put it down flat. So I'm using some flat tape here on all four sides. I think that it gives a really nice effect, because normally you would have to pop that up for the pocket shaker tool to actually work, so that's why I particularly wanted it not to be popped up, so that it gave quite a different look. And then just to finish off, I just added some Cosmic Shimmer glue on the pieces that I didn't want to just go around with tape, and then just turning that over, making sure that it is lining up correctly so that all 4 sides go down with even amounts of green showing, and then just pushing down on the letters where the Cosmic Shimmer is to ensure that's stuck down as well. And there you can see that despite them being a flat, it still moves around just fine. So next I want to add my additional letters that we cut, and I'm going to position those offset slightly to give a nice shadow effect, and I'm also going to put them at different dimensional levels. So I'm doing the J here flat using Cosmic Shimmer glue, and then I'm going to do the same with the Y, also flat and using Cosmic Shimmer glue. And then for my O, I want that popped up with so that it has different levels and dimension to our word. So I'm just using some foam tape here, and so it's not going to be massively high, and then I'm just going to add a little bit of Cosmic Shimmer on the back of the foam in order to not only give a little bit of movement time when you're sticking it down, but it also gives it some additional strength. So I think that's quite subtle but effective look. So now back to the inside, and I just cut some corners out of some of the red scraps that were left, and just popping those in each corner on the inside just to add a little extra element to the inside, because I thought it looked a little plain compared to the front, and I just thought that small detail looked really effective and gave it a bit of a pop, and actually made the sentiment pop as well. So that was the inside finish. So then back to the front, I decided it still needed a little something, so I added Wink of Stella sparkle pen all across the front of those letters. It's a very subtle effect actually, and it only really blings like that when it catches the light, but when it doesn't, it's almost like it's the dark green again. And then as a final touch, I added 4 dark green pearls to the corners on the front there, and I think that just finished it off really nicely. So that is our card for today. I hope you have enjoyed making it with me. Don't forget to go on across to the blog if you're here on YouTube. Click on the link in the paragraph below. But otherwise, I will see you again soon. Thank you so much for watching, and bye for now. Bye!